So there's a new Netflix show starring Robert De Niro. I finally finished it. Let's discuss 0 Day.
3,402 people died on 0 Day.
So we have a 6-episode limited series that you're probably going to binge since it's on Netflix, not very long. It's a political thriller, a conspiracy drama, all of the makings to be the next really great limited series on Netflix. You've got an awesome supporting cast, Jesse Plemons, Angela Bassett. It's kind of ridiculous. Lizzy Caplan, Joan Allen, Matthew Modine, Dan Stevens, and it poses the question, how do we find truth in a world of crisis? And that first episode sets us off on a path, a significant chain of events that is really turning the USA upside down, because we don't really know where all of the madness is coming from, but we do know that attacks are happening all around our nation. A cyberattack, which is like, I mean, that's the fear in real life. So immediately you've got me hooked by the idea, because that's scary, but it's also something that is all too real. I mean, we're seeing imagery in this first episode, which it's kind of weird that we're seeing that, but we're seeing imagery of planes, ground, and I'm just like, I don't like seeing that, because I'm seeing that in real life. And we have Robert De Niro playing our former president, George Mullen, who's called out of retirement by our current president, that is President Evelyn Mitchell, played by Angela Bassett. I like the dynamic between these two. You can tell they're both seasoned, veteran, weathered actors, at least the roles that they're playing, specifically De Niro, who's literally former president, been there and done that. He's suffered through the pain of being in office, I'm sure, but now he has to come out of retirement to investigate this cyber attack that has crippled the entire U.S. infrastructure. Again, a grounded premise that's outlandish by nature, but it's also something that you could look at and remain terrified by. And that's kind of the thrill of this show, is it's something where you're seeing transportation affected, power grids being disabled, communication systems, and I believe it said there are like 3,000 plus deaths in this series. And, you know, a lot of those are happening within that first episode. But 0 Day also opts to take a difficult path more close to home later on in the series, when we get a few deaths that are just one of the more shocking deaths I've ever seen in a show like this. He's attempting to uncover this conspiracy, but us as an audience, we're trying to figure out, okay, is it closer to home than we think? Are high-level government figures involved? Is it another country or numerous countries that are attacking the U.S.? I believe the interest here lies within the mystery, and that was what was so compelling in the beginning of this show, is you don't know what's happening. Well, you can see what's happening. You don't know why it's happening. And the mystery of it all will keep you on your toes. Now, some of those government figures are played by Matthew Modine, Lizzy Caplan. Jesse Plemons is in this show. And let me tell you, Plemons is fantastic. He plays Mullen's former aide, and there's something about him, as there always is with Jesse Plemons, literally every movie or show he's ever been in, to where you can't figure out what side he's on. Well, you think you know, right? But it's that mysterious complex that makes him such an interesting character. You could feel that way theoretically about all of the people involved here, because they're all political figures. And part of me, when they're making these guys and girls likable to the audience and kind of relatable, I'm like, that's not realistic, because political people are normally not very relatable or good-hearted. That's how you know this show is made up. But no, it has that grounded feel. It's a slow burn type of show that did kind of slow down more than I expected in the middle. And it started to introduce characters, side plots, subplots, if you will, that you thought were relevant when they were first introduced. And I'm trying not to spoil anything, but as the show progresses, you kind of realize that's probably going to get left in the dust. And ultimately, some of these story points get left in the dust. Now, not to say you don't get answers, at least a lot of the answers you're looking for, but when really important things are left untouched by the end, that's disappointing.
Son of a bitch!
And not only is Mullen dealing with that because he's thrust back into action after being the president, also he gives a great speech in, I believe, the first or second episode to a group of protesters, to where you're really you're buying into what he's saying in that moment, and you know there's a history there just because of the way this show starts. You just don't know the details of that until they're revealed to you a bit later on as the show moves on, and I like this character. Now, I know what the fear is because I went on IMDb and I saw that this was spammed with 1 star yesterday, before the show even really came out. And so that was kind of funny. We know how Robert De Niro feels politically. My fear, regardless of how you feel, my fear is that that was going to be brought into this world, and specifically this character. I don't feel like it was. I feel like this show was kept to the writers. They wrote it in a certain way. Now, you can make comparisons, but that's kind of any real-world grounded show where you could make comparisons to real life, not specifically anyone involved in the show's political beliefs. And so that was something I know a lot of people had fears of on IMDb specifically. I don't think that translated. That's less of my issue with the show. It's more so how all of this is handled. I do like the personal challenges they give Mullen along the way. He's been in it a long time. He's dealing with lapses in memory and hallucinations, and we're trying to figure out how that's going to impact what he's doing here and how his interactions will go. And so he has a lot to deal with. Definitely the focal point of the series, because everything kind of revolves around him from the beginning. And maybe I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of some of these supporting characters. Like Bassett's really good in the role. We just don't get that much time with her. I do like what this show dealt with in terms of the era that we're living in, disinformation, how we depend on technology, how the society that we live in right now, we are so fragile as a nation. And so these are all ideas that play into what I like personally. But those ideas are also kind of lost along the way because we get so caught up in the mystery angle of it all. Instead of hitting on what could have resonated just a bit more, we're so reliant on, we got to keep the audience guessing as to what's going to happen next and who's going to do what. And I felt as if that was the wrong direction to take it. And it ultimately becomes a little convoluted. Now I'm cool with it not being a full-on political commentary. We're going to tell you how you're supposed to feel, because I don't want a show to do that. I want a show to lay it out and allow me to decide. This show never really gets that deep to where it has a lot to lay out, even though the themes, like I just mentioned, are there. A little bit of Mr. Robot in there as well. The problem that I have with the series as a whole, I'd say the main problem, is that I kept waiting on it to further grip me. I was gripped by the first episode, and I was in. I'm like, all right, this is cool. I like the pacing. I like the just how it's making me feel. But as it went along, I do believe it loses steam, and it becomes, I'd say, far less of a gripping mystery like it was in the beginning, and more of an unfulfilling mystery as we inevitably get to our end point. That does, answer a lot of our questions, but like I said, since we're introducing so many characters and subplots, this and that, it's like you have a lot to do, you don't successfully do every bit of it, and so by the end, it's just kind of like feels a little more jumbled than maybe I expected by the beginning. And again, the beginning was riveting, and there are parts of the show that are riveting, and I think the craft is there. It's a well-made, well-produced, good-to-look-at series. I just believe the script does kind of get lost along the way, and I never felt totally in the midst of the last few episodes. I'm like, man, I know I'm supposed to be feeling something right now, and there's one scene there that does kind of make me feel something, but everything else, I wasn't as hooked as I wanted to be, because Netflix has offered some shows that hook you from the get-go, like Dark and Never Let Loose. This one hooked me, but I kind of slipped away by the end. I need to know what you all think about Zero Day, or where you're leaning. I wish I was more either enthusiastic or just wanted to rag on the show, but it's more so trying to balance a lot of things that they attempted to offer us. And so before I give you my score, thanks for coming, thanks for watching. I'm reviewing Netflix shows and movies. Just talked about The Monkey on this channel, and if you want to drop a comment or a like, that'd be cool. Zero Day starts strong but loses steam along the way. Its inability to keep the momentum going spawns from a lack of focus and scattered plot points. The cast redeems many of its flaws, and it manages to deliver a few top-tier sequences. All in all, I was disappointed. I think I expected more from Robert De Niro's first major venture into television. But hey, it's Scorsese's not here with him, so what are they supposed to do? But I don't think the cast is really the root of the problems here within the show. I just believe some of the execution, maybe the script, could have been a bit stronger along the way. But what did you all think about 0 Day? You binging it on Netflix? Have you binged it already? Did you watch it before me? Brag down below. All right, see you soon.